something just exploded in the golf world. And it is not about a leaderboard, not about a controversial ruling, and not about a missed shot under pressure. It is about an entire region of the United States being publicly condemned on national television. And the man who said it is not backing down. Because according to one of Golf Channel's most prominent analysts, Long Island does not deserve to host another major championship. Ever. If you follow golf and want every major update the moment it breaks, subscribe to this channel right now, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this. 1. On Sunday, June 21st, 2026, Wyndham Clark stood on the 18th green at Shinnecock Hills Golf Club in Southampton, New York, and captured his second United States Open championship in 4 years. On paper, it was a historic performance. Clark led the tournament from start to finish, wire to wire, against one of the most difficult course setups in major championship golf. But the moment the trophy was in his hands, the conversation in the golf world shifted entirely. Because what surrounded that victory, in the grandstands, along the fairways, and deep into the six-deep galleries, had become impossible to ignore. Throughout the final round, the crowd at Shinnecock Hills openly and loudly rooted against Wyndham Clark. Fans cheered his mistakes, groaned when he escaped trouble, and reserved their loudest applause for his playing partner, world number 1 Scottie Scheffler. The hostility was not subtle, and it was not limited to a single moment. On the 4th hole on Sunday, a young fan yelled at Wyndham Clark not to choke, and was immediately walked out by security. On the 12th hole, when Clark's approach shot rolled off the green, the crowd cheered gleefully. One spectator even shouted, "Scotty!" in direct response to a Clark mistake. The United States Golf Association confirmed that multiple spectators were removed from the course for abusive conduct. And in a moment that underscored just how serious the situation had become, the USGA issued a mid-round apology to the viewing audience via the NBC broadcast. After the round, Wyndham Clark addressed what he had experienced directly. "They definitely didn't want me to win," he said, seated beside the trophy he had worked to hold on to all week. It's pretty rare in a major to have fans boo your shots or cheer for bad shots. At the trophy ceremony, Clark acknowledged that not all of the crowd's hostility was unprovoked. "New York didn't really like me. I love you guys. But I get it. Some of it's self-deserved. I did some unfortunate things last year that I really regret, and I've said sorry multiple times, and I'm still sorry." Despite that atmosphere, Clark hung on with a 3-over par 73 in the final round, protecting his lead every time it threatened to slip away. To understand why Wyndham Clark became the villain at Shinnecock Hills, you have to go back 12 months. At the 2025 United States Open at Oakmont Country Club in Plum, Pennsylvania, Wyndham Clark missed the cut by a single stroke. What happened next defined his public image. After missing the cut, Clark entered the Oakmont clubhouse locker room and destroyed 2 of the club's 121-year-old lockers in a fit of frustration. The club permanently banned him from the property. To be reinstated on the PGA Tour, Clark was required to pay for the full cost of the damage, make a charitable contribution, and complete an anger management program. He apologized publicly and continued to apologize in the months that followed. Clark himself described that period as one of the lowest stretches of his professional life. "After what happened at Oakmont was obviously the lowest point," he said. "People probably didn't see what happened after, but it was a really tough 2-3 days for me. I was in a dark place, didn't really go outside much. It was a really negative, dark place." He also admitted that the fallout had threatened far more than just his reputation. "I felt a lot of my career, world ranking, reputation, everything just dwindling. That's a terrible feeling." But Oakmont was not an isolated incident. 1 month before it, at the 2025 PGA Championship at Quail Hollow Club, Wyndham Clark threw his driver after a poor tee shot on the 16th hole. The club struck a sponsor sign and knocked it down just a few feet from a flag attendant. He apologized for that incident too. The pattern did not end there. At the 2026 RBC Canadian Open in Toronto, Wyndham Clark wore a Team USA hockey sweater during a competitive round, a deliberate provocation directed at Canadian fans in the wake of the United States defeating Canada in international hockey. Hecklers responded with, "Canada hates you," throughout the round. Golf Digest described Wyndham Clark during the week of the 2026 United States Open as arguably the PGA Tour player in good standing who draws the most negative feeling from fans across the sport. That reputation followed him directly to Long Island. Adding another layer to the final round atmosphere was the competing storyline of Scottie Scheffler. The world number one was chasing the career Grand Slam on his 30th birthday. Fans sang him "Happy Birthday" on the first tee. The crowd's emotional investment in Scottie Scheffler was real, loud, and sustained throughout the day, and it made every moment of hostility directed at Wyndham Clark even sharper by contrast. The morning after Wyndham Clark's victory, Golf Channel analyst Eamon Lynch sat down for a Monday morning segment and said what many in the sport had been thinking, but had not yet said at that volume or on that platform. Lynch did not soften the language. His commentary was direct, deliberate, and immediately explosive. "Long Island golf fans are a stain on the game of golf," he said during the segment. He did not stop there. He turned his attention to the 2033 PGA Championship, which the PGA of America has currently scheduled at Bethpage Black on Long Island. The PGA of America is supposed to go back to Bethpage in 2033 with the PGA Championship. That should not happen. These people do not deserve a major championship. Lynch then addressed the argument that hostile fan behavior is simply a New York problem, something universal to the city's broader sports culture. He rejected that explanation entirely. "This isn't a New York problem," he said. "It doesn't happen at Winged Foot, doesn't happen at Baltusrol on the other side of the Hudson River. It happens on Long Island every single time." He then went further in characterizing the type of spectator he believes is most responsible for the atmosphere. In one of his most controversial remarks of the segment, Lynch said, "It's the drunk crypto bros who buy a ticket with daddy's credit card. They've gone through life without ever being slapped for something they've said." That statement alone ignited social media across the golf world within hours. Beyond the commentary, Lynch proposed a concrete solution. He argued that golf should adopt the model used by Augusta National Golf Club for the Masters: no phones, zero tolerance for disruptive behavior, and absolutely no second chances for spectators who cross the line. He called on both the PGA Tour and the PGA of America to implement stricter crowd control policies with real and immediate consequences. And at the center of his argument, he maintained his position that Long Island should be permanently removed from the major championship rotation. Lynch's comments after Shinnecock Hills did not emerge from a single incident. They emerged from a documented pattern, one that had been building for nearly 10 months before the 2026 United States Open was played. In September 2025, the Ryder Cup was held at Bethpage Black on Long Island. What unfolded there set the stage for everything that followed at Shinnecock Hills. European players, and Rory McIlroy in particular, were subjected to relentless heckling and personal insults throughout the competition. Fans were yelling during players' backswings and causing repeated delays. Shane Lowry's caddy had to physically hold him back from responding to a spectator during the heat of competition. And in one of the most widely condemned moments of the entire event, Erica Stoll, the wife of Rory McIlroy, had a beer thrown at her while walking on the course. The PGA of America responded by deploying extra security and New York State troopers across the Bethpage Black property. Several spectators were ejected. The event's master of ceremonies stepped down following a wave of criticism over vulgar chants that were permitted to continue from the stage. Rory McIlroy addressed the behavior directly once the competition concluded. "I don't think we should ever accept that in golf. I think golf should be held to a higher standard than what was seen out there this week." Two-time United States Ryder Cup captain Tom Watson issued a public statement immediately after. "I'd like to congratulate the European Ryder Cup team on their victory. More importantly, I'd like to apologize for the rude and mean-spirited behavior from our American crowd at Bethpage. As a former player, captain, and as an American, I am ashamed of what happened." Golf Channel reporter Brendan Porath, speaking on air in the immediate aftermath of the Ryder Cup, argued that Bethpage Black seems incapable of hosting a big-time event with any sort of civility, and described what had happened as something that's toxic and beyond the pale, just not acceptable for any sport, let alone golf. And Eamon Lynch himself, writing for Golf Week at that time, noted that the belligerence of the Bethpage fans did not actually surprise anybody, because the same behavior had been documented at every major event held at that venue. Lynch's argument after Shinnecock Hills was built directly on that foundation. This was not one bad crowd at one isolated event. This was the same behavior, the same environment, and the same result, at a different venue on the same island, less than 10 months later. Not everyone in the golf world agrees with Eamon Lynch. The reaction to his commentary has been sharply divided, and the critics of his position are making substantive arguments in response. The central objection is this: penalizing an entire geographic region for the conduct of a fraction of the spectators in attendance crosses a clear line. Both Bethpage Black and Shinnecock Hills host tens of thousands of fans across a major championship week. The disruptive individuals represent a minority of those in attendance at any given event. Critics argue that stripping an entire region of its major championships punishes the vast majority of respectful fans for the actions of a few bad actors. There is also the argument about what passionate crowds bring to the sport. Major championships at Bethpage Black and Shinnecock Hills have generated some of the loudest and most electric atmospheres in the history of golf in the United States. And critics of Lynch warn that banning venues over crowd behavior establishes a precedent that has no clear endpoint. If Long Island loses its major championships over fan conduct, what happens the next time a crowd goes too far at a different venue in a different part of the country? Golf.com editor James Colgan, who grew up on Long Island and covered both the 2025 Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black and the 2026 United States Open at Shinnecock Hills, offered a perspective that sits directly at the center of this debate. He wrote that during the final round on Sunday, he realized he had grown so accustomed to the jeering that he had stopped hearing it altogether. And then, when he noticed that, he felt shame. Colgan argues that the crowd behavior at Shinnecock Hills is connected to a broader cultural shift driven by social media. One where spectators are not cheering, but dunking. Where players inside the ropes are not people, but targets. And where the habits of the internet comment section have been transported into the physical environment of a live sporting event. That argument raises the most uncomfortable question of all for the sport. Is this a Long Island problem, or is this the direction all of golf is heading? The immediate and most concrete consequence of this debate is focused on one specific event. The 2033 PGA Championship is currently scheduled at Bethpage Black. Bethpage Black has hosted the United States Open in 2002 and again in 2009. It hosted the PGA Championship in 2019. And it hosted the 2025 Ryder Cup. Shinnecock Hills, meanwhile, is one of the founding member clubs of the United States Golf Association and has hosted the United States Open across more than a century of golf history. The idea of removing either venue from future major championship consideration is historically significant in a way that few decisions in American golf would be. The PGA Tour and the PGA of America have not issued any official public response to Eamon Lynch's commentary. But according to multiple reports, the statements have generated internal discussion at the highest levels of both organizations. When a respected analyst calls for a venue to be permanently stripped of its major championship hosting rights on national television, by name, with specific events cited, it does not remain a media story. It becomes a policy conversation. And right now, that conversation is happening. Do you agree with Eamon Lynch that Long Island should be banned from hosting major championships? Or does this criticism go too far? Drop your answer in the comments right now. If you want every major golf update the moment it breaks, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications so you are never behind on the next big story.